Hello! It's time for a little bit more Call of Cthulhu again. Load. Hawkins. Last time, you may remember that we escaped from the asylum slash hospital slash evil breeding ground of cults. So this time, a little bit of back to the manor. Or mansion. Which is a little bit surprising.
Who goes there? That nightmare again. I need a drink.
Well, the mansion looks a lot nicer in a little bit of sunlight.
You're awake, Mr. Pierce. How do you feel?
Did I sleep long?
The day is only starting. It's fine.
How's our fugitive? Dr. Fuller hasn't reported your disappearance to the force, but that'll come soon.
Bradley?
Who else would it be?
Mr. Pierce, are you all right? You look like you saw a ghost.
There are things I can't explain.
Tell us. What happened?
Occultism professional.
I have flashbacks. They haunt me.
What did they do to you?
There was that Dr. Fuller and a nurse. Blood everywhere. My legs, the pain, I couldn't bear it. I was screaming. They injected me with something. I woke up at the Institute. Bradley was there.
And how you scared us. You seemed demented.
You likely woke up during the anesthesia. No wonder those memories haunt you. What in God's name were they doing to you?
What happened afterwards?
When I woke up the second time, I was in a padded cell. That's where you found me, Doctor. After you released me, I got a good look at what's in store for the patients of the Riverside Institute. Hallucinogenic gas pumped into the cells. An infernal machine, horrific medical experiments.
Impossible. Dr. Fuller would never do such a thing.
You should believe it, Ethan. What Mr. Pierce saw is precisely what I've been trying to prove. Did you discover anything else?
Well, Bradley's looking slightly spooked. Medicine professional.
What I'm sure of now is that the Hawkins case isn't just an accident.
And what brings you to that conclusion?
The fact that Charles Hawkins survived the fire.
I don't understand. Mr. Hawkins was buried.
That's what he would have you believe.
I have a hard time believing you.
You were there, Bradley. You even opened fire on him.
I'd remember that.
Why would he fake his own death? Do you think he covered up his wife's murder?
That's possible.
Seems hard to swallow. Don't you have anything more concrete, Pierce?
You two know each other pretty well.
It's a tiny island. Everyone knows everyone. Especially since I'm a police officer and Marie's a doctor.
The chemistry is obvious.
I do seem a little bit stupid, don't I? Anyway, let's get back to the business at hand.
Bradley, what do you remember?
I don't understand your question.
The night we went into the Hawkins mansion, You don't seem to remember the tunnels and what occurred there.
No memory of going down any tunnel. No, we were in the manor, then,
Then what?
The rest is quite blurry. I don't recall how I came back home.
And then?
I went to visit you at the hospital, and called on Marie's help to get you released.
And you don't remember the events of the tunnel?
I don't. Let's talk about something else.
So, well, we saw Bradley quite possibly die in the tunnel, yet here he is alive without memory. I mean, the fact that he's got a gap in his memory is good news, I would say, because that means that there's something, you know, something unexplainable there. Because had he told me like another story, then that could lead us down a path that maybe Pierce is going insane, which he still might be. So he might have. The thing is, he might have imagined everything in the tunnel, and the tunnels and all that. But the fact that Bradley has a gap in his memory means that most likely at least something happened. Now the fact that there is like somewhat established that there are hallucinogenics involved in the story, at least to some extent, or possibly just, you know, the maddening influence of Cthulhu. I mean, there's several possibilities. However, I am really glad that I've now got the expert
Given the energy
on that.
he pours into Riverside, I presume it was Fuller's creation.
His father's, to be correct. He was a surgeon on board the Scylla. He founded the hospital in 1904 with funds from the Hawkins family before he died and his son Thomas Fuller took over.
Two families inextricably linked.
Most island families are that way. Captain Fitzroy's father was also a seaman aboard the Scylla.
Powerful families dominating everything.
Yes, and as you could tell, Dr. Fuller is like some crazed emperor.
He wouldn't be happy if he knew we were snooping around.
I know the risks. I don't fear him. Do you wish to know anything else?
I found a file bearing Sarah Hawkins' name in the Institute's basement.
It makes sense. A powerful family like the Hawkins had the means to hide such a disgrace.
But everyone knows the Fullers have been taking care of the Hawkins for at least a generation. And all were aware of Mrs. Hawkins' fragility.
Perhaps, but no one would allow a psychiatric internment.
From what I read in the file, Fuller used her as a subject of his experiments.
Francis Sanders and Sarah Hawkins, subjects of Dr. Fuller. Why those two?
Dr. Fuller seems to be leaving a trail of corpses. Not to mention those strange machines, and chains, and tools of all kind.
Yes, I've been telling you that Fuller uses his patients as guinea pigs.
What I saw was more akin to torture than medicine.
Do you even hear what you're saying? Dr. Fuller is highly respected.
It's the truth, Ethan, and I'll prove it to you. I'm listening, Mr. Pierce.
I mean, just because someone is highly respected doesn't mean that they can't be a right bastard.
Francis Sanders. Do you know him?
Of course, he's a patient. Or was. I haven't seen him since Dr. Fuller had him transferred to the basement.
He knew Sarah Hawkins, and that's what killed him.
What? How did he die?
I'm not sure I can explain it.
Tell me how Mr. Sanders died.
Right, now we're on a little bit of an edge. A sort of crisis, or the Shambler. Now, this is not the truth, obviously, but this is going to make us seem very, very much insane. So, Ah, fuck it, in for a penny, in for a pound.
I didn't see what, but something was there, with us.
Of what do you speak?
Sanders said it was Sarah Hawkins' visitor. He spoke of it like a living being.
Sarah Hawkins? Have I missed something here? This makes no sense. I don't see how it can help crack the Hawkins case.
You really think she's involved? How could she have murdered Mr. Sanders?
Francis Sanders mentioned Mrs. Hawkins just before dying. It's no coincidence.
You know, Francis Sanders was a well-known art collector. I guess you can still pay a visit to his wife, Irene Sanders.
An art collector, you say? That's probably how they met.
If you plan on having dinner at the Sanders household, please spare the widow the tale of her late husband's suffering.
I don't agree. She deserves the truth.
But that truth may be biased. We don't know the bottom of it.
Well, thus far it's gone down a lot better than I would have expected. However, let's stay prudent, or...
He's right. We can't ignore
I think it is better to confront the
But
truth.
it could drive her mad.
Better madness than ignorance. Very well. I'll go to see Francis's widow. Perhaps I'll find a link between her husband's death and Sarah Hawkins.
Don't end up in the hospital this time.
I'll do my best.
I definitely will do my best. However, nice fucking Telltale Games moment there. You know, rest in peace, Telltale.
The other night's events are still confused in my head.
Cthulhu will remember this. Chapter 6, Saunders' residence.
What can I do for you, sir?
Mrs. Sanders? I'm a private detective. We must talk about your husband and his ties to Sarah Hawkins. Can I come in?
You may. However, before we go any further, please know that my husband died yesterday.
That is precisely what brings me here.
Well, well, look who's here. You know each other.
We met briefly. Time enough to iron out a few matters. The main thing is that we understood one another. The brave detective has a talent for sticking his nose into my business.
I bump into her every time I'm investigating someone's death.
It's a small island, detective. My island. It's better that it's you bumping into me.
You're investigating Francis' death. Why? Who hired you?
I spoke to Francis before he died. His story suggests a link to a case I'm working on.
Well, since this business has got nothing to do with me, I'll be in your husband's office, Irene. We'll carry on later.
Very well, Miss Baker. This way, Mr. Pierce. And do make yourself comfortable. It would seem that you have much to tell me. May I inquire as to when you had the opportunity to talk to my husband?
Yesterday. I met him at the hospital. He spoke to me about Sarah Hawkins.
Oh, of course he spoke to you about her. That's all he talked about. Sarah Hawkins and her paintings. Please forgive my tone. The fact is that I have not been allowed to see him since he was interned. You, on the other hand, a perfect stranger, were able to see him and even talk with him the day he died. How was he? Were you present when he had this attack? What happened?
Psychology professional?
What happened to your husband is terrible, Mrs. Sanders. But from what I saw, it was inevitable. The man I met yesterday had lost his reason. He suffers no longer, if you would allow me such a platitude.
Of course. Thank you for your kind words. Nobody in that hospital would have deigned to speak them to me. However, it will require more than that to soothe my mind. I need to understand. How could this happen? In a reputed institute? And right before your eyes? Did you not do anything to help him?
Hold to test eloquence. Shite.
Mrs. Sanders, I understand your grief, and I extend my deepest condolences to you. But I had nothing to do with the death of your husband. I've just arrived on Darkwater. I'm investigating the death of the Hawkins family.
The death of the Hawkins family? You mean it was not an accident? This accursed island knows only tragedy after tragedy. You too would be advised to flee it like the plague. Oh, I'm tired, Mr. Pierce. I would be grateful if you could tell me what you expect of me, and then leave.
Well, the conversation went a lot better than it could have, and I'm really glad I had such a high level in psychology. But now...
Did your husband talk to you about Sarah Hawkins' visitor? A Shambler, to use his precise terms.
Well, you can imagine that's all he talked about. It's exhibited at the center of the gallery. No better place for the painting that endowed him with the privilege of such a shameful and miserable end to his life.
Hold on. The Shambler is a painting by Sarah Hawkins.
Who else to paint such horrors? Take a look for yourself, if you feel so inclined.
It is my only lead at this stage. I suppose I have nothing to lose.
Then you have paid no heed. For my part, I refuse to set foot in that gallery again. But if you're so eager to see it, I would urge you to make the most of your visit. Because I count on ridding myself of that thing as soon as I can.
Thank you, Mrs. Sanders. I won't be long.
Thank you for your cooperation. Right, so now we've got 6 points. I could shove it into... If I dump it all into psychology, I'll get that up another point. That might... That might be good. Or I could dump it into eloquence. Or I could raise... investigation. I could raise that to... Investigation does seem to be the most central. I'm kind of torn between psychology and eloquence, to be honest. Psychology has had some surprising uses, though. And I think the further we go into the story, the more it is going to come into play, so... Definitely thinking that. Let's see. Mental trauma. Okay, so there's also stuff here that... I know that I've at least missed one between nightmares and the ritual. Which means I haven't lost as much sanity as I could have, but I've actually lost a fair amount. I'm still stable though, which is good. But there's also I feel like I am about to lose some sanity in the form of...
Let's see what this cylinder has to say once it's inserted in a phonograph.
Alright, that's much better. But yeah, I have a feeling that the Shambler will cost me some of my precious sanity, as unfortunate as it is.
The day the Shambler came into the Sanders' lives.
Wow. That, that is some fucking picture, that is.
Francis Sanders and Sarah Hawkins were close. Friends, even? Sanders' accession register. He wrote beside the Shambler, "Finally." What did Sarah Hawkins fear so much that she didn't want to sell the painting? A house of artists. He finally won. Was Sanders aware of his imminent doom? She despises Sarah Hawkins, but it's the painting she truly hates. Why? He didn't want Sanders to have the painting. She must have felt devastated.
If I had to make a quick guess, it's that the painting looks fairly gruesome, but I think that Sarah Hawkins may have been forced to sell the painting because of Charles's debts.
The Shambler. I need to see it.
Okay, I haven't lost any sanity yet, but
Irene, I made a mistake. I fear that it might be too late for me. Nobody should enter, except to burn everything. I never had the courage. Pay somebody to do it. He's inside my head. I see him behind my eyelids each time I shut my eyes. I can't take any more. I can't hold him back. Forgive me.
That accursed gallery. Those accursed paintings. That accursed Sarah.
I mean, I think those are mountains, but because of the art style they look more like mountains of corpses. Actually, like, the way the paintings are done is very interesting. It causes interesting you know, effects such as the eyes on that fucker following you around. Alright. But this leads me to believe that there are further cylinders to be discovered. Ah.
A strange Amerindian pendant.
Hmm. So I assume they then fished both whale
I could
and
use
cod.
one of those. Strange. For months, Sarah Hawkins refused to part with her painting, to finally give it away for nothing.
Dear Francis, I beg you to give up all hope of ever owning this accursed painting. If our friendship has any meaning for you, please spare me the weight of guilt. I cannot be the architect of your fall. I beg you, my dear friend, forget the Shambler. Your friend, Sarah Hawkins. Right, so it wasn't for money. So, like, if Sarah Hawkins gave it away, then there might have been a far more nefarious purpose behind it. If she truly did use the occult and specifically the influence of Cthulhu and you know, the maddening influence that carries to create, to capture the art and then the pieces, then it's possible, and if Charles Hawkins is really, or was, or is so inundated with the cult, then it could be that he is the architect behind the death of Francis Sanders.
Another volume of the Reverend's wife's diary.
Oh, I have become... Oh, I'm still a amateur. I thought I progressed. The Malleus Bestiarum Volume 2. An encyclopedia of monsters and unknown creatures.
That's twice you've stepped on my toes, Detective. Try not to make a habit of it.
I've got a lot of bad habits.
Some can be more fatal than others. What have you come looking for in this gallery?
I'm not here to cause trouble, if that's what's worrying you.
Worry me? Don't overestimate yourself. If the last beating wasn't enough for you, I can always give it another go. But as long as you keep out of my way, you're free to carry on with your visit.
And you? What brings you to the Sanders home?
I'm here on business. Irene asked me to liquidate all these paintings. She doesn't intend to hang around here for long.
Why you?
Believe it or not, there aren't many collectors on Darkwater. It needs someone with a network, and a means of transport to the mainland. A choice that comes down to Fitzroy and me. And I'm far more pleasant, wouldn't you say?
Eh. Well, that was a fucking pointless strength test. And hello to the Gallery of Nightmares. Excellent. Well, on those fucking peachy... Jesus Christ, what the fuck's going on with those two? Anyway, we'll continue on from here next time, so thanks for joining me, and, you know, join me again next time. Ta!